Electricity. We all use it every day, in our cell phones, in our lights, in our computers, and just about everywhere else. But have you ever wondered how our electricity is made, or how it gets to you? Today I'm going to be explaining a big topic in the world of physics, alternating current. I'll explain how it gets generated, and how it gets to you. Take a look at what we have here. A battery, some wires, and a light bulb. When you allow power to flow in the circuit by flipping the switch, the bulb lights up. This is called direct current. Electrons flow through the wire from one end of the battery to the other end, in only one direction. However, this is not how the electricity in your power outlet moves. How could this be? Well, this is through the power, get it? Power, electricity, of alternating current. Instead of having charge flow in one direction, the charge changes direction when it is moved by alternating current. First it goes through the light bulb from right to left, then left to right. There are two important laws to talk about here, Ohm's law and Faraday's law. Ohm's law states that voltage equals current times resistance, or V equals IR. Voltage is the difference in charge between 2 points, while current is the flow of that electric charge. A good way to think of it is like a tank of water. Voltage is a lot like water pressure, while the flow of the water is a lot like current. Finally, R, the resistance, is a lot like the sides of your pipe. Now, to understand how alternating current is generated, we need to learn Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction. In 1831, Michael Faraday discovered that any change in the magnetic environment around a coil of wire will cause a voltage to be induced, and thus cause electric current to flow. In addition, Faraday discovered that when a fluctuating current flows through a coil of wire, it generates a magnetic field. As soon as the magnetic field stops changing though, the electricity stops being induced. Here we have a little generator. It has a magnet in the middle and a coil of wire on the outside. When we spin it, the magnetic field near the coil of wire changes, so it creates a voltage which induces a current. Every half cycle, the flow of the electricity alternates, because the poles of the magnetic field swap. In the end, our voltage graph looks just like a sine wave. Now, let me explain how this applies in the real world. Ever wonder what goes on in a coal burning factory or in a wind turbine? Well, you just saw it. In a coal or petroleum burning power plant, all they do is burn the fuel, heat water into steam, and the steam spins a turbine connected to a generator. Wind turbine? Just swap out wind for steam. Hydroelectric power? Just swap liquid water for steam. Nuclear power? Heat water into steam by smashing atoms together instead of burning fuel. Alternating current power generation all works on the principle of spinning a turbine which is connected to a generator. By harnessing the forces of nature to spin a turbine, alternating current can be generated, and that's how alternating current is generated in the real world. Large generators have not one, not two, but 3 coils of wire in them. This way, it generates electricity in 3 wires, with their sine waves offset. This is called 3-phase power, and it is used across the United States. It is used because this way, at any given moment, one of the lines is near its peak, which results in more consistent power delivery. The last piece of machinery we have to understand is the transformer, which is a device that changes the voltage of electricity. A transformer, in essence, is a coil of wire wrapped around a metal core, and another coil wrapped around the core, in close proximity to each other. According to Faraday's law, a fluctuating current will create a magnetic field, which is what happens when we feed alternating current into the primary coil. Then, that magnetic field induces current to flow in the second coil, once again according to Faraday's law. This leads us to our last important equation, P equals I squared R. This is simply the power equation, with voltage being represented by I times R, which we can derive from Ohm's law. I squared R is the value of the power lost in a wire with resistance R. Thus, the larger our current gets, the more power is lost due to the resistance in the wire. This is what makes transformers so important. They can raise our voltage and lower our current, minimizing our I squared R losses. That high voltage power gets fed into large transmission lines, which bring the power much closer. Behind me, you can see some of those lines. If you look closely, you can even see 3 different wires, one for each phase. The 2 on the very top aren't actually carrying electricity. They're there to protect the wires from lightning strikes. After being transmitted to your town, the electricity must be brought back down to a lower voltage, which happens at a place called a substation. You've probably seen them. They're large fenced locations with lots of power lines and machines. Once again, a transformer is used. Finally, distribution lines bring the power to your neighborhood. where it finally passes through one more transformer to bring the voltage to 120 volts, which is what comes out of your sockets.